the MBX Films Theater is now showing Jingle All the Way because I found your Turbo Man doll, Jaime! Somehow, someway, I have stumbled across a Turbo Man figure from the 1996 movie Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger and even old Jake Lloyd that would be in The Phantom Menace a few years later in 1999. And it was about, getting the hot toy for Christmas, getting the top action figure of the time. And they made up their character for the show, Turbo Man. And then I guess they produced it hoping to, see if the prophecy would come true, that they could make the next hottest toy. And I don't think it quite worked. Again, because there was only the movie and not a real show or anything like that. But I did find this Turbo Man at a thrift store, of all things. So we'll just kind of go over its functions and talk about this figure real quick here. So first of all, he is missing two accessories. There was a boomerang weapon that was in the movie that could kind of stow in this spot, but it is empty. And he also had a disc shooting weapon, a very small little disc kind of thing, so you could see how those got lost, but there's no shooter either that I think he held in his hand or it latched on. But he has his electronics, so we'll battery him up here and just see what all he does. Oh, and it's got the handy cloth strap there, so when the batteries are dead, you can kind of zip them right out. Kind of overly featureized in that way. Get the batteries in.
You can always count on me.
And he's already talking. Let's screw in his plate. Naturally, that was not the voice of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but the figure was not really of him anyway. Just ended up in the costume in the movie. What's pretty interesting is the jetpack is a separate piece here, and if you look, it's kind of got like a microchip kind of thing, or a cartridge like maybe an NES or old game cartridge. So there's some sort of feed of the electronics into that where they decide to make that removable. So it has kind of the slot there on the back that it locks into. It does say 1996, 20th Century Fox, and then Tiger Electronics was I think even the spoofed company on the box, or maybe that was there was a Kickstarter to make a more authentic one than this one after. So there's actually two Turbo Man figures. So he has the button right here. That is the talk.
You can always count on me.
Of course, he already said that one.
Beware of evildoers.
Sure.
Good work, Booster.
Good old Booster.
Good work, Booster.
We know.
It's Turbo time.
Hey, I think that's about all he's got for phrases. He's got a switch here. You can flip, and you kind of have these like landing lights that just kind of always blink, because it's just for ready for takeoff, or just kind of extra function, which is kind of cool that you can kind of always have him with a light on. Swap that. I guess what's interesting here is this mold isn't even the one from the movie. This is its own mold. The movie one was kind of a different look. This one has a bigger torso. I guess probably because when they came to doing the actual electronics, they were like, hey, there's not enough room in here to do the functions that it did in the movie. He does not completely straight up and down. He has a little bit of movement, but it's mostly just this movement for the old legs. The arms get kind of the ball joint so they can move around a little bit. Nothing at the wrist and the head. But then the final function is the jetpack. Just has the one button here. And so it had the lights and the jetpack sound, but it stays on the entire time until you close it. So you can imagine him flying and it keeps the sound effect going. So I guess it kind of makes sense if you're playing with it that it would do that. But if you have the batteries in it, you can't display it with the wings out or it'll sit there. And he'll just keep blasting off the entire time. The button does not shut it off. So you gotta just close him down. This doesn't have like kind of like the vac metallized shiny gold that was in the movie, and again it's just kind of a crappy appearance, really. I mean, but then again in the movie it was too. It wasn't like exactly like the show. Just kind of the real the toy isn't always as amazing as the show or movie that they make it of back then, especially. I kind of like the movie just for the kind of toy shopping references, like he has the sidekick booster, and so then all the stores have tons of boosters left. That's the shelf warmer kind of aspect of toy shopping, or for kids, or for collecting action figures and things like I do now. Kind of like the bench warmer that, you know, in the sport, they never get onto the field to play. They're just always sitting on the bench, so they're just keeping it warm there. So his sidekick and the other characters were always keeping the shelves warm. They were shelf warmers. That every kid just wanted the Turbo Man, and nobody wanted Booster or the villain character either. So they never, obviously they would never make those because they said right in the movie that they would be shelf warmers, and it's not good to make shelf warmers if you're a toy company. You don't want to keep the shelves warm, you want to keep them cold with your stuff flying right off the shelf. So it was in pretty good shape. There's not a ton of dings and wear from, I can tell it was played with. You know, this wasn't just a collector's thing. There's chips from play and things like that, but not too many, and, you know, the electronics function, so nobody went wild throwing this in the swimming pool or anything like that. I would have thought if they actually made a toy of the movie that they would do, you know, the Arnold Schwarzenegger version that was him suited up in the parade, the Christmas parade at the end of the movie. But they did not do that for some reason. I would have probably done that if I was in charge of the product. Say, hey, if we get Arnold Schwarzenegger's likeness with this and get his voice samples saying the lines, it's going to be more of a collector's item for, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger fans and things like that. But now it's just kind of like, yep, you made the crappy action figure from the movie. In reality, what was the goal here? Luckily it was like a limited run anyway, so I usually don't find cool things like this at kind of resells and thrift stores and things like that, so I was like, holy crap, it's Turbo Man, and it wasn't until I got home with it that I realized it's actually a fairly sought after figure and fairly rare because the limited run, and I was like, wow, what a find, you know, just something that I wouldn't have ever sought out to get, and I wasn't that big of a fan of the movie, but I always enjoyed kind of the holiday shopping and toy aspect of it, that, you know, it's always the sellout of all the popular stuff, but then they would always have, you know, tons of stock of the crappier toy that nobody wanted for some reason. It was always overmade those for some reason. So I've got plenty more action figure stuff here you can watch of all sorts of types and brands and shows and movies, so you want to stick around and check all those out. Until then,
Good work, dude.
well, no, not Booster, but oh well.